In this video, I'm going to go through 5 things that I wish I knew before I played Baldur's Gate 3. Now, this is for beginners, but this also comes from a beginner. This comes from me, who's never played past Baldur's Gate games, never played Divinity Original Sin. I've played games like XCOM, and I've played RPGs like in general, but nothing this deep and nothing this complex. So it's coming from a beginner. It's for beginners. I hope you guys enjoy. So let's start with the first thing, which I believe is honestly the most important, and that's take your time and read pretty much everything. Now, this would include menus, this would include potions, this would include talking to people and the different narrative choices that you have. And I know it's cliche just saying to open the game up and start reading, but this game has so many different systems. This game has so many different menus. You're going to have to slow down, which is what I did. I would sometimes spend 5-10 minutes just opening up an inventory menu, right? Toggling to see my entire party, looking at what I have, looking at what I'm already wearing, looking at things that I can use like health potions and stuff, and just figuring out what every single thing does, what the numbers mean, where everything goes, all of that stuff. The best way of doing it, because honestly, the game helps you a little, but the tutorials I don't feel are really all that meaty. They kind of throw you into the fire, and yes, they build over time, but generally you are going to need to take some time to just sit there and stare at the many, many screens in this game just for a couple minutes just to see what everything does. And it's going to get easier the longer that you play it. At least that's what's happened to me so far. The second thing is just how many ways there are at handling a situation. Now, I knew this a little bit going into Baldur's Gate, just like I knew that this game was going to kind of be complicated and I probably would need to read. However, you don't know just how many possibilities there are in this game until you actually play it. So in terms of how you can handle this and where this kind of pops up in the game, it really applies to all aspects of it. So, I mentioned inventory and items. I mean, obviously, things that you're swapping in and swapping out can have different buffs to you. Items that you're using can do different things. Now, obviously, reading those is important, but just knowing that nothing is just one way in this game. Even getting to certain locations or getting to specific areas for a mission are not just one way. One example, classic example that's very early in this game, there's an area you walk into, you see some people kind of bickering, and there's multiple ways of handling them. You could fight them, you can persuade them, you can kind of scare them out. I did scare them out. I walk up to a door, I knock on the door, and I could have pretended to be those guys. I could have used basically the same scare tactic on the person on the other side of the door. Now, when I did my dice roll, I actually lost. So I had to find a different way, which ended up just being dropping this huge rock on a different part of the land, and you can slide in through a back entrance. So I could have handled that maybe 3, 4, 5 different ways. There's goblin camps that you can handle different ways. You're not locked into one thing, which includes combat. You don't always need to fight. You can always fight if you want to. You can persuade, and all that stuff changes based off of your own attributes. What are you good at as a character? Which class did you choose, right? Everything kind of changes depending on who you are and how you handle certain situations. But there's so many ways any one thing in this game can play out. Number 3 is the amount of people that you can talk to. So again, I knew this was a talk-heavy game. I knew, that's the fantasy kind of role-playing element to it. I know how many hours of cutscenes, are in this game. We have talked about how many endings are in this game. But when you go around and you just see how many, NPCs are available to talk to, and some of them will be very short, right? So when you're looking up at your mini-map, the ones that are gold, those are slam dunks that they'll have something to say. Some of them will lead into not necessarily a side quest, but they'll kind of lead into a meaty conversation, which, as we just talked about, can actually go multiple different ways. They may not spin themselves into a full-length side mission, although sometimes they can. Sometimes it'll literally activate a side quest and you'll continue to go down a path and you'll just continue that quest as you're going. But sometimes it's just fun lore. Sometimes it's still things where you have to play the conversation however you want to do it. You can get aggressive, you can get cocky, you can get sarcastic, you can scare them, you can listen to what they have to say and leave, but you only do that by talking. But this game gives you more than enough people to talk to, and it's beneficial to do it. Again, you're probably having fun. You're rolling the dice, which is kind of important. You're leveling up potentially in the situation, right? You're gaining XP. So there's actually a pretty big reason to go even off the beaten path and do things that maybe, if you're not sure about doing, well, you're probably going to get something for it, maybe an item, right? It's beneficial to do it. Fourth thing I wish I knew is just how complex the combat was. So look, again, coming from a beginner, I haven't played the game too much. I am getting better. You do start to figure out, oh, okay, you can use the environment to your advantage. And I don't just mean like getting on a higher like elevation point to shoot down if you're an archer, things like that. But again, kind of understanding what every ability that all of your characters have, that takes time. It takes time to figure out, oh, this person is good at doing something versus another, or that one person should stay at a distance because they're better at a distance, or another one is able to kind of just go right up on their face. Or if you are a magic user or you are like an archer, getting too close, you actually have a very low chance of hitting the enemy. It doesn't really work like that. Buffs, debuffs, all that kind of stuff. It's hard. And again, this is not a combat specific guide, but just knowing going into this game, this really ties back to, again, just the reading and just replaying it to just understand it more. It's going to take some time. It is difficult. I'm not good at it. I'm getting better over time, and I intend to continue to get better as I play the game. And the fifth thing is the importance of exploring and resting. So resting is something that I have seen here and there in like things you should know before you play, back when it was like early access and stuff. Resting is so important. Don't take it for granted. In fact, just do it often. But this really spins off into a lot of other things with the game. So you can't really just rest. I mean, well, you can, but like long rests need the supplies, right? So as you're out in the world, you're going to be wanting to search pretty much everything. And I think it gives pretty good like meaning and reason to go out of your way and open up a barrel that you know is going to be like one or two things in there, and it's probably going to suck. But you know what? Maybe it's a couple extra gold that you can sell to somebody, or maybe it's a supply item that you can then use to rest. Resting is very, very important as, well, number one, even a side thing, it's a good place to just talk to your group. Everything's very calm there. You can go, you can explore kind of relationships with the party members that you have. That's fun, and it does engage a different side of this game, but also heals you, rests you up, restores things that maybe you could only use one time in combat, right? I'm playing as a sorcerer, so some things can only be used once, and they don't replenish unless you rest. So that's very, very important to do. Rest often. I normally try to push it. I say, okay, well, how close can I get to death, or how much can I explore before I rest? I don't like to rest like every, 10, 20 minutes. I like to push it as far as I can. But then the exploration part, well, exploration, again, for supplies to then be able to rest, exploring to find those other NPCs. The game, again, it doesn't really hold your hand. It'll have the markers around for the quests and side quests and companion quests and all sorts of things like that, but also just kind of lets you wander and doesn't really lock things off. I mean, you'll kind of know if you're too far ahead of yourself, right? You should probably turn back, but you can just go. You can find companions that way. In fact, that's what I've done. I've gone off the beaten path to find people or to find quests that aren't part of my main quest. I kind of just went off the beaten path and stumbled upon like a meaty side thing that I just go into. Maybe that's then a camp that you can trade or just find interesting conversations there. The game really opens up, but it makes you do it. So you have to walk off the beaten path, figure it out, find someplace, and then the game will continue to open up for you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, any kind of beginner things you'd want people to know before they jump into this game. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. If you want to support me anywhere else, all my social media links to our Twitter, our Discord, my other YouTube channels, they're all in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next one.